We're not going to slow down this technology. We're going to speed up the ethics to meet it.
I am so excited to be here with Meghan Sullivan, who's a decorated scholar and teacher at the University of Notre Dame, which you may have heard of because of the football team, but it's a pretty good school, right? Like not just the football team.
Go Irish.
Go Irish. Where she is professor of philosophy. She's the director of their university-wide ethics initiative, is the founding director of Notre Dame's Institute for Ethics and the Common Good. You can check it out. We'll put a link below if people want to look at that, ethics.nd.edu. She's particularly interested in her work in the way that philosophy can help us have, I think it's fair to say, a good life, right? She's the author of The Good Life Method, based on a wildly popular Notre Dame course called God and the Good Life. Welcome, Meghan.
Oh my gosh, thanks, Brian. That's a lot of stuff. I'm excited.
That was too long. That introduction was too long.
No,
that introduction was too long. No, we're going to go with it.
It makes me feel like a big shot.
You are a big shot. You're traveling to the Vatican. You're here at George Fox. We're so happy to have you here. Thanks for coming here.
I'm so excited. This is my second trip to Fox. And as I was pulling up, I brought some colleagues from Notre Dame this time to come out for the Resonate conference. And as we were pulling in, we were playing that great song from the early 2000s, What Does the Fox Say? Do you remember that song?
No way.
What does the fox say?
That's our George Fox pump-up song.
That was actually an important song here around the time that came out.
Incredible.
It was kind of like a viral marketing thing for George Fox, you'd think.
Yeah.
Not actually.
That should be the name of your podcast. What Does the Fox Say?
What does the fox say? Where have you been all our lives? We're going to do 14 episodes with Meghan here, actually, where she makes suggestions for things like this. Let me ask you this question. Can people have a normal conversation about AI anymore, or is it just like doomers and people who are pumping it? And is there any room for people to just be like super normal about this?
I think we should try to have a normal conversation about AI. I will admit, AI really brings out the kooks.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I think it's this combination of science fiction movies and books have been predicting the technology that we now have on like our smartphones for a century.
Right.
So it taps into this like science fiction imagination that's been cultivated for decades and decades and decades. And now that it's real, I think some people are having a hard time divorcing like the fiction from reality.
Wow.
But I also think that we are going through a really monumental transition in our economy and in our world. We have powerful software that can perform actions that humans cannot do, like can compute in ways that humans can never do, can generate memes. It could write, I could pull out my iPhone right now and write into ChatGPT, please write me a dissertation on topic XYZ.
Isn't that amazing?
In the style of like a great famous philosopher from the last century.
I worked so hard.
I worked for years on this. It could do it in minutes.
Do you think, some people say that they think that that's demoralizing. I guess I'm like, well, but okay, I knew that cranes could lift thousands of pounds. And even when you and I were doing our dissertations, pre-AI, I knew that the things I wanted to know were in books or that other people knew them. And that wasn't enough to stop me from doing it. So why are people saying that AI is uniquely demoralizing in terms of what it can do?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting
Have you heard people
question.
say that? It's demoralizing? But like, it was already true that knowledge existed. Like, why was that? That wasn't demoralizing. I wanted to achieve things. I wanted to know. But there's something about the way AI is doing it that's now making people feel like, or at least say people might feel like, well, I guess if I can write a dissertation, why would anyone else even do it?
I think one thing that is, I don't know if I'd say demoralizing, but like dizzying about AI. Have you heard this expression, the uncanny valley?
Yup. I just used it today in an email to somebody.
Oh, nice. Yep. I mean, for listeners who don't know, uncanny valley is like when you look at like a mannequin in a department store that just looks like it has hair. Like it's the terrible thing to see a mannequin that's got like hair on it because it's just like it's too close to human.
Yep.
And as long as you look like an artifact or a tool, it's fine. As long as a mannequin looks like it's just there to hold clothes, it's fine.
Right.
But if it starts looking too much like me, but it's not exactly hitting it, then I get freaked out. There's this kind of thing. It's like it's too close.
Close, but not enough.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so I think with like ChatGPT and with these various AIs right now, we're in the uncanny valley of like, it's not just like a web search where I know this like web page I'm looking at is just like a static page. It's an artifact. But when I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT saying like, I use I should lead with this. I use AI all the time. I use AI every day now. For the last couple months, it's started to become just part of my daily work.
Part of your process.
I'm writing a talk for the conference tomorrow at Resonate, and I need to do some research about how Christians responded to the advent of the atomic bomb in 1945. Hop on to deep research, ask it a question, be like, can you tell me like 5 really interesting examples of what leading pastors said on August 7th, 1945 about the bomb? And it comes up with ideas. But unlike a web page, if you use ChatGPT for one of these research projects, it also asks you questions. It's like, did you like my ideas?
Yes.
Would you like me to look up this other thing?
Yes.
Would you like me to make a handout for you? I
Yes.
can help you make your slides. And this is where it's like a mannequin with hair. It's like, whoa. You're talking to me like you're a person, but you're not. You're I don't know what you are, and that's where I think the kind of dizzying aspect comes in.
I'm really taken with that analogy. I really like that. It reminds me, I heard someone recently, I'm not just going to pretend that this is my own thought, so I credit some vague person, I can't even name who the person is who said this, but it was on some podcast, something like this, where somebody like you was saying something very smart, but they said basically, there's this issue like that we know what the math is behind AI. We know that it's like a kind of autocorrect, an auto fill in the blank on your phone on drugs times a billion.
Yeah.
It's math. It's a machine.
Yeah.
And we can know that, but our experience of it is something much more enchanted, much more almost spiritual or personal. I mean, it is spiritual for some people.
Yeah.
People are actually becoming obsessed with AI in a way that you couldn't become obsessed with your toaster, for example.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if you saw this article in the New York Times 2 weekends ago. It's called God in the App Store. Would recommend your readers check it out if they want to be freaked out.
We'll link it below for freaking out.
Drop that link.
God in the App Store. Okay.
God in the App Store.
Yeah.
Awesome article. But one thing that's happening is you can make a chatbot that simulates God. And so suppose you're the kind of person who always longed to like have a direct conversation with God where God responded in real time. I'm not saying like God changed your heart or inspired you through prayer, but God like literally is texting you.
Yeah.
These chatbots will say, it's not God. Write this down, like listeners, like this is not God. This is an algorithm. But it talks in like King James dialect. So you say like, dear God, like, can you give me some advice about whether or not I should quit my job or whether or not I'm a good parent? And it responds back like, my child, like as I revealed to you in Leviticus book 2, blah, blah, blah. And it pretends like it's God. And so the New York Times did this big story about how unsettling this can be for people and also how we should be nervous that people are sharing things with this app now that normally they would have reserved as being their very private most thoughts. They're a little bit, I don't want to say they're deceived. Like people aren't foolish. They know that they're not actually talking to God through this app, but there's some element of like how responsive it is and how it's like filling some kind of need.
Well, it's almost like the effect is the effect no matter what. What I'm experiencing is what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't overthink it, on this. I mean, that would be the idea of like, if I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
Let me make a confession to you. And it was sort of a mystical idea I had when AI first dropped. And I'd like you to just like shut this down definitively or tell me there's some mystical instinct here that maybe a Christian, which I'm trying to be, should nurture.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say something, I don't know if they were just really joking or if they were just doing a riff, but this was online, probably on Twitter or X or whatever it was at that time. But someone said, almost the experience of using AI, it was almost as if we've discovered something that was always already there. Like we didn't invent it, but it like tapped into something that already existed that's now coming into expression. And I was very taken with that idea. I thought, oh, that's amazing to think like that. There's this whole AI idea of retro causality, which is very weird, but I should have researched that one more time before bringing that up. But now I just said it. Okay. But something almost with like time travel and the idea like something like the future is like working through AI to bring about a present that was already known. And there was some mystical part of my mind that I won't say that I wanted that sort of thing to be true, but maybe some yearning or some desire for some kind of transcendence that I thought, well, maybe this, life is so boring and it just feels like we're locked in this iron thing. And finally, someone did something. I mean, if you were born in 1880, you saw the invention of the car. Yeah. You saw The invention of the airplane, the Wright brothers, you went there, you were there at Kitty Hawk and you saw them do it. You saw us go into space and commercial airline. And then what?
Yeah.
The internet, I can buy stuff on Amazon. Like AI is
Hey, Amazon was on. Like
okay,
that.
okay.
I love being able to
you
buy
know what?
stuff all the time.
I'm actually, okay, I take that back. I take the thing back about Amazon. But, but like it's actually cool. And maybe there was just some part of me when I read that whatever sparked, and I didn't believe it in a scientific or a mathematical sense. I mean, I don't know if that's true, obviously. There's no way to know. But there was something inside of me that just yearned for something like that to be true or to see something like that in the world, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, these AIs, they're super predictors. That's what they're really good at, is like predicting the next word in a sentence or the next sentence that you're going to think completes the thought. In fact, they're not just generalized super predictors, but the interesting generative AIs right now, like ChatGPT, they're superhuman predictors. Like they're very good at predicting what a human wants. You type in a prompt like, can you make me a picture of her mom and 3 kids visiting Oregon? And it predicts an image that you are going to recognize as like that thought that you were trying to articulate. It's like very good at predicting us.
It's pretty special.
Absolutely. And I could see how that would, before the advent of generative AI, we really only attributed super prediction to God. Like God's the only thing that would like know us before we know ourselves. But now we're in this weird world where actually there's this bit of software that can predict things about you before you even know it. And I think we were getting this a little bit with like algorithms before AI. So I don't know if I'm addicted to YouTube. I don't know how many of your listeners are like big into YouTube.
They better be.
Yeah.
Get addicted to this show.
Hit the like button.
Smash the like button.
Smash that like button and subscribe.
Let's get addicted. Just a quick, if you're watching this, you can subscribe. Did you know that? I'm looking at the camera. You guys can subscribe to the show. There's more like this, okay?
Absolutely. So. I think it's interesting. I got really into YouTube starting around the pandemic just because I was so bored with TV.
Classic time.
But one of the things that's interesting, you watch YouTube for a while, I feel like I started learning things about myself based on what the algorithm would predict I wanted to watch next. It'd be like, I didn't know I really liked like documentaries about math. Like I never sought out documentaries about math before, but something about the other kinds of things I do search for, YouTube decided I would like those. And lo and behold, I really like them.
You know how it does? Continue this thought, but you know how it'll do that thing? Like it'll just keep pushing this video and you're like, it must really think I want to watch this.
Yeah.
And you're like, fine. I'll watch the loneliest cabin in the world video. Why do they think I want to see that? And then I watch it. I'm like, oh, I like that.
That was great.
Like
exactly. So I mean, this is the algorithm it doesn't deeply know you, but it starts to know things about you that you didn't realize about yourself because it's a super predictor. It's like, it's way faster at making predictions than we are. And so there's some element that I think that starts to feel like a little bit of magic.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, but the implications for faith will be really interesting to watch.
Absolutely.
In the next few years. I know only a few years ago, there was a Harvard Business Study, I think 2023, that was looking at why are people using ChatGPT, for example. And I think personal relationships, conversation was number 30. On a pretty long list. It's number 1 now.
Oh my gosh. That scares me.
So that tells you, right, what people are immediately seeing, that this is that feeling of some kind of transcendence or that feeling of something like this. But when you can't have it and you want it and you need it, and it's right there.
Absolutely. And it's like a quote unquote friend that is aimed to kind of perfectly predict your feelings about it. Like a friend that's just designed to please you. They use the word sycophancy right now for these AIs, but one of the things that they're designed to be is like endlessly flattering to you, like endlessly supportive of you in a way that like no actual human friend is.
You put in a question, they're like, wow, what a great thought.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine having a friend like that?
Absolutely. No, it's, this gets scary because at least we had the opportunity. I don't know how old you are. I'm 42. Had the opportunity. 45. So we had the opportunity. I'm not going to say like the first 40 years of our lives were easy, but we had the opportunity to like practice messy human relationships with other humans practicing messy relationships and to like work out the kinks and learn how to tell if a friendship is struggling and learn how to pull things back and how to compromise.
I didn't know to be grateful for that at the time.
Oh my gosh. Well, now I do sincerely worry about teenagers and emerging adults who have to come of age and have to figure out how to be a human being in relationship to other humans when they've got this like the shadow of these chatbots in the background who are like, things aren't going well for your real friend on text. That's okay. Just switch over to ChatGPT and pour your heart out.
I mean, I have a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old daughter. Like, I'm just terrified.
Yeah.
For their life. Like the 12-year-old trying to tell her about like, why does all of her friends, they had phones when they were in 3rd grade, and like why we're like, please, this is not a holier than thou moment. I'm just, because our older daughter had a phone probably before she should have and does now.
Yeah.
I wish I could take it back. Sorry, Nova. But like the younger one is just like trying to explain to her, like, I'm sorry, like this innocent thing you do where you just get lost in a book and you just do this weird thing and you had a towel wrapped around your head in this weird way and you're walking around the house at 10 at night. Like the idea that would be replaced with you sitting on a phone is just like almost like crushingly sad.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
just no way. Okay, let me jump in with just to save us from the doom and the gloom. Could it be, let me launch a thought experiment on you. You're a philosopher. I'm just trying out my thought experiment sea legs here. So you'll forgive me if this isn't a fully formed philosophical thought experiment.
For sure.
This is my AI thought experiment. And I'd really like to hear if you think there's something to this or you think, no, Brian, this just does not work. And here's why. This is what we pay for, okay? As a philosopher, you got to do this. So
all right.
My thought experiment is called, You Can't Eat Big Twisted Pieces of Metal for Breakfast. That's my title. And if I said to you, Megan, I've got an idea for you. I need you to eat these twisted, jagged pieces of metal for breakfast. And you're like, I can't do that. Like, no, try it. And let's say I convince you, and let's say you do it. Now, we do know that people have actually eaten cars and airplanes over the course of a year. People do this, but the average person, this is going to rip you up. Like, this is bad. This is going to hurt you. And you will know. And on day 3, hey, Megan, it's like, Brian, I say this a little bit self-consciously with reference to Rabbi Gamaliel in the book of Acts to Jesus about the new Jesus movement. People are saying, Rabbi, we need to shut this down. He's like, don't worry. If it's real, we can't shut it down. But if it's not, this thing is going to fizzle out.
Yeah.
And I heard actually the leader of OpenAI, ChatGPT, Sam Altman, saying a version of this actually on a podcast. I think it was with Theo Vaughn or something like that. Very, very interesting interview. He said something like, look, we're going to have to show ROI in people's lives, not just for businesses, but for real people like you and people like me in your research and in teenage daughters and everybody. And if we can't, people just aren't going to use it. And this isn't going to work. And if we have certain needs as humans, needs for friendship, like you mentioned, or needs for intellectual stimulation, or needs for just all kinds of things, information, if they're not fulfilling those real human needs in a real human way, then people will stop using them. And in that sense, there will be damage. It's like social media. We maybe went a little too far with that. Smoking, there was a period where maybe we didn't know, and lots of people got lung cancer who didn't have to. I'm not denying in this thought experiment that there's damage, but just that it's not eternal and it's not irreversible. There's a kind of a self-correcting mechanism with this, maybe, that we will be a little bit more savvy now after the age of social media is kind of, where there's a reckoning with that now. And there'll be some self-correcting mechanism with AI where maybe the damage will be more limited, because if it's not really meeting those real needs, and if it's so obviously not, although maybe on the other side that brings to light the idea that, well, maybe it really actually is meeting some of the needs in ways that maybe very, very, very thoughtful, faithful, moral philosophers don't want to admit. Yeah. That actually it is actually fulfilling that, and it wasn't so special, and it wasn't so human after all to have a conversation, let's say. Okay, that was long.
I love it.
What do you think?
So I want to address your thought experiment in a second, but first, this institute that I run, the Institute for Ethics and the Common Good, we partnered with the Lilly Endowment over the last year to take a look at AI ethics, and in particular to look at what perspective should Christian institutions and organizations take on these new AIs, these new very powerful AIs that are hitting the market. And we learned a lot from that. I'm happy to share more about that as our conversation goes on.
Yeah, totally.
But one of the biggest insights, we did 137 one-hour phone interviews with pastors, with people that work in the tech industry, with people that work for think tanks that talk about parents and child development. We talked to a lot of academics and ethicists. Mm-hmm. And one of the consistent themes was one of the reasons why people are loving AI, one of the reasons why they're adopting them en masse, and that there's these huge investments in these products now, is they really do serve human needs that are not being adequately met right now by schools or by churches or by civic institutions or clinical practices. So if I'm the kind of person who I cannot get an appointment with my therapist, but I'm suffering from depression.
Right.
and one of these AI companies releases a chatbot that can do some kind of simulated clinical therapy with me.
Right.
It's not the case that a lot of people have been making the choice between seeing a real human therapist and seeing a chatbot therapist, but they're oftentimes making the choice of like no therapy or
right.
the chatbot because
Right.
the human institution is failing them. Or in the case of like educational context, I don't think it's surprising that we see all of this rush of young people into AI when we're coming off of 5 years of seriously disrupted school life. And you say like, the kind of halcyon awesome days of schools being these places of physical presence and learning, and your soul is touched by these incredible educators, and you're learning how to read, but you're also learning how to think and imagine.
1990s. That's
That
when we
was
grew up.
awesome. I mean, look, who are we kidding? It wasn't that great in the 90s either.
That's true. It wasn't.
But for many young people, they're not experiencing that in their physical school.
Totally.
So they might realize like AI is not perfect, but it's actually satisfying needs of like personalized
Right.
instruction and care that they're not getting from their regular
So you're
school.
saying you learned that as part of this research in these conversations?
Yeah, and we have to take that seriously. So as we think about what kind of ethical vision we want to guide us as we decide as individuals and families how we're going to use AI,
Yeah.
and as we also start to think, what kind of society do we want to build with this really powerful but dangerous tool?
Right.
One of the things we have to come to terms with initially is it's not like we're in the Garden of Eden now. Like things have not been perfect now before AI. There are needs that we have that are not being met that this powerful tool can try to meet for us. And the question is really like, how do we want to balance that?
Right.
Now let's talk about those shards of metal.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear parts of it here. There's a little bit of a sympathetic take. Like, no, there are real needs here.
Yeah.
And AI is maybe meeting those needs.
If you're starving and your only option is the metal breakfast cereal,
You go with the metal.
you might just be eating it because you don't have any
might-
good food nearby.
You might go with the metal. I guess the whole point of the thought experiment in one sentence is to say, I've heard people act like AI is just like demonic. It's terrible. It's meeting no needs. And people are just it's almost like demonically or magically deceived by it.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm thinking, is that really true? Or is it actually, would it sort itself out if that was true? Would we not notice?
I think we've talked with a lot of awesome developers, like people who are working in tech industry who are trying to build AIs that can solve real problems. I think one of the things we have to always remember is that companies, they need to find users. They need people to pay for subscriptions to their product, or at least like watch ads. But they might not be incentivized to care about what's ultimately good for the user. They might just care about whatever it takes to get the user to continue to use their product. And there is a world of difference in ethics between satisfying someone's desires and willing their good. Like that's a huge theme in Christian ethics is that those two come apart.
I see.
I might have very strong desires, but actually not be super clear in my own mind of what's good for me. And a loving parent, for instance, we see this a lot when you're raising kids. Like a loving parent might realize they've got a 4-year-old that wants mac and cheese every single meal, like desires that very strongly,
Yes.
to the point where they like reject other alternatives
Okay,
when you present it to them.
let's be clear. Boxed mac and cheese is really good, and we shouldn't pretend that it's not. But I hear
it's
what you're
not
saying.
shards of metal, but they've got this really strong desire. But the parent who like really loves their child realizes like you should only give it to them in moderation.
Totally.
They need other things,
Yep.
even if they don't at the time realize it,
Right.
because they're growing. They're going to figure it out.
I'm tracking with you.
Tech companies are not like our parents, and they would say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not like their job to raise us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they keep going only because they satisfy our near-term desires. They don't keep going as companies because they ultimately give us what's good for us.
Right.
And so I think with your with the metal shards cereal example, if these tech companies can get by just like constantly providing you metallic cereal, different variations of it that kind of keep you on your toes, but never give you the opportunity to ask this further question of like, what is ultimately good food for me?
Right.
They have no incentive to ask that further question, and if the users have to do it, and culture has to do it, and the government and regulators have to do it,
Right.
this is way more than just a simple preference about a product, because this is literally a technology that's transforming how we experience
Right.
education, how we experience the media, how we take in information. This is the kind of product that, as it becomes widespread, is going to change how we read. It's going to change how we collect and present our thoughts.
Totally.
That I think we got to proceed. We definitely should have a vision of the good behind adopting something this powerful.
Yeah, that's really great. There's a lot to think about there. I want to also, I think this is a great point to turn toward a document that you sent me called Delta, a faith-based framework for a world of powerful AI. It's grounded in a quote from Laudato Si, which, because I'm not a Catholic, I didn't know, but I assumed it was some super thoughtful Catholic thing, which it's a Catholic teaching, an encyclical about the environment and about consumerism and all these kinds of things. And I take it that AI is now a kind of a new challenge on this front. And Delta is an acronym for dignity, embodiment, love, transcendence, and agency. And you spell these things out in terms of AI, and this feels like a grid in which you could basically assess whether AI was going to be good for an institution or even a person or a situation through these lenses. Is that true? Could you tell me more about this document and what your hopes are for what you're doing on this project?
Yes, we just released this framework through our institute this past week, and it's really the outcome of these 14 months of interviews and focus groups and talking with tons of Christians about AI. And what the Delta framework is meant to do is offer a positive vision of the good life and the good society that's informed by and rooted in Christian faith, but is hopefully palatable and interesting to even non-Christians. But to say these are the kinds of lives and the kind of world that we want to build with this technology. It's in certain sense a yes to this technology, saying we're not gonna slow down this technology. We are going to speed up the ethics to meet it.
Wow. Okay.
And what the positive vision is rooted in these 5 commitments that are central to Christian ethics. But again, we think even if you're still on a journey to figure out what your religious commitments are, you can get behind the idea that it would be good for society if we built AI that upheld these principles. And so dignity, I mean, I can run through really fast, just really, really briefly, but dignity.
Yeah, started with dignity. That was the one I got stuck on. Here's a quote from Pope Leo XIV that's quoted there. The person is not a system of algorithms. Made me wonder, what is a person?
What is a person?
You know, what is a person? Is a person a human? Is a human a person? And what does it mean for a person to have dignity?
One of the most exciting things for Christians, I think, about the dawn of the era of powerful artificial intelligence is that a whole lot of folks right now are asking this question, confronting this question. What is special about a human person?
Right.
If you thought before that, like, what's special about human beings is we can play chess or we can make art.
This is our conversation earlier about that feeling that you're really interacting with something that can do all this stuff.
It can do all those things. So
a person writes a dissertation. No, they don't.
Exactly.
Chat writes a dissertation.
So if you were kind of lazy, I mean, if you're a Christian, you thought, like, what does it mean to be made in the image of God? It's that we can do those things. And God creates. God solves problems. God contemplates. Well, you're going to have to go a layer deeper now because there's something that, I don't know if this is controversial, but I'll say it. AI is not made in the image and likeness of God. We are. It is not. There's a profound ethical difference between us and software. Even though we use software terms to describe ourselves now, we talk about, like, I'm going to download some information on you.
Shows how powerful it's become.
Oh, my gosh. We have, it'll be a big part, I think, of Christian ethics in the era of AI to really put our foot down and say, people are not computers.
Wow, yeah.
People have inherent dignity simply in virtue of the fact that they are a human being. It has nothing to do with how smart you are or how efficient you are or how economically productive you are. Those are all good things to aspire to.
Sure.
But your ultimate value, your dignity, comes just merely in the fact that you are made in the image of God. And that's a rock bottom truth that separates us from this software and is going to be the basis for a bunch of our ideas about what rights and responsibilities look like in the era of AI.
Wow.
So when we ask, that's a metaphysical question, what is a person? But it gets practical really fast. If we ask, is it okay for a company to fire a bunch of human workers and replace them with AIs? That raises
that's a live question.
Very much a live question. It's happening right before our very eyes.
Right.
This gets into questions like, what is work for? and what kinds of rights and responsibilities do employers have to their workers. And this becomes a question about dignity. What is it to offer dignified work to your employees? Were you treating your employees like machines before, or have you always been treating them like human persons, like human beings with inherent dignity?
Yeah.
I think that's, Christians are going to have some interesting things to say about that. We talk a lot in the era of AI and the era of big tech about privacy and whether users are giving up too much of their privacy, giving up so much of your data and your information to these apps.
Right.
One of the things that's interesting about Christianity is we don't think the right to privacy is rock bottom. We think you have a right to privacy because you have dignity. Like, the privacy depends on dignity. So I think we're going to start having some more interesting debates about this that aren't just saying like never infringe on someone's privacy. There's a version of AI ethics right now that's just all like safety, fairness, compliance. What Christians are going to come in and say is, I don't want to obsess about the no's, but I want to think about human dignity is the rock bottom thing that I have to respect in how I relate to other people and the kinds of systems that we create.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that we are always seeing that as we deploy this new technology?
Oh, this is so stunning. And as we run out of time, I realize, as I often do in these conversations, we could just talk about this for like 30 hours. There's also
Bodies,
embodiment.
love,
there's also love. There's also transcendence.
transcendence.
There's also agency. I mean, people can check out this project, and hopefully institutions that are looking for a framework can jump on board with this. We'll have some links below where people can check this out.
You can check out the keynote that we did where we introduced the framework. If you're willing, you can drop it in the comments. I'll send you a link and you can watch it.
No, we will. Absolutely. We'll put a bunch of links down below. I want to ask you one final question.
Yeah.
I'm a little taken back with happiness, or I'm inspired by you saying, hey, this AI is happening. This is not anti-AI. We're trying to scale up our ethics to basically meet this and to make this robust. Can you just take us out with a thought on this? What gives you hope that we're going to navigate this AI thing well in the future?
What gives me hope is I think the fact that humans created this, and we sometimes screw up. We humans, we sometimes create terrible things. But we're made in the image and likeness of God as a creator. We also sometimes create really cool things.
Yeah.
And I think we look at these powerful AIs, it's going to be a mixed bag. There's going to be some externalities, side effects of these that we really don't want, and we have to be really careful to guard against. But we're also probably going to cure some more diseases. We're probably going to make some like extremely weird AI art that's going to be fun to play with. And exactly, it's going to be fun to play with and experiment with. God's in control. Like, ultimately there's an actual super intelligence that is not a piece of software that's in control here. And if like our wills are in the right spot and we're kind of paying attention to that, then this could be a really fun and generative and exciting chapter. And so my faith gives me hope.
Yeah. I'm so glad people like you are working on this. Thanks for talking with me.
Thank you. It was a blast.
Yeah.